Beardy and the Beast Media Club.
Ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba. This is a placeholder intro song.
Thank you for joining Beardy and the Beast Media Club, a full spoiler podcast into a piece of media. We will not harvest those spoilers like oh so ripe organs. If you enjoy what we do, please consider sharing us with your friends or joining the conversation in the comments or at our Discord. My name is Drew, and he's kind, but he looks like the prison type. Devin.
It's the beard, isn't it?
Today we'll be discussing the Korean action drama, The Man from Nowhere. So, Devin, did you find this piece drab or was it eye grabbing?
Yeah, that's good. um, for the most part, um, definitely eye grabbing. I think I really only had like one kind of complaint in the back of my head while I was watching it.
Hmm.
And it's something we've kind of talked about before in action movies. It's that there's just so many jump cuts in the fights, and I kind of expected to see more longer fights. That being said, there were really good fights. It just would have been nice to see some single shot ones.
Suppose, but I also think that Won Bin, I'd have to double check, but I think he's an actor, like a martial artist, though he definitely had like Statham like qualities. I don't think like an actor,
Yeah.
as far as I know. But I think he's actor first, action, second or third or something.
Yeah. I mean, it says something when that was really the big glaring thing that I saw. It was just, would have been nice, much like when we watched Red, you wanted to see a fist fight that didn't happen.
I'd have
Doesn't take
loved
away
a fist
from
fight.
yeah, doesn't take away from the film. Just one of those. Yeah, would have been nice. Would have been a nice cherry.
Yeah, I would have. I actually noticed that too. I would have really liked a longer fight scene of some sort, like even the mass brawl fight scene, like
Mhm.
before he was fighting with Ramrowan.
Yeah,
I act.
yeah.
Um, that was actually quite a short action scene as well.
Mhm.
One, though, I would have preferred something a bit longer, a bit more performative, especially like with some longer one shot cuts. What I appreciated with it is like the kind of brevity that would come with a fight like that.
Yeah,
Like most of them aren't, multi-round boxing things that occur.
yeah.
Like a real fight that occurs is generally over fairly darn quickly. I think they tried to keep up with that. I would have loved a longer fight, but I also noticed right away it's like all these fights are either like even off camera
Mhm.
or very short.
Yeah. Yeah. And anyway, it's like it's another thing. I found the fights were fairly visceral. I think they were very well choreographed. Just where we've seen some movies where they have those bit of extended scenes, and it's something that we've both commented on seems to be missing in
Hmm.
a lot of media now. It's kind of like this seems like there's just a couple of places where it would have been perfect for it. Like as you said, the fight near the end, like that kind of mass brawl, having a Matrix like take on it, where it's just following the action the entire time. Um, but again, I definitely felt the impact, so it's a minor issue.
There was one action scene that I really liked.
Hmm.
I mean, I liked many of them.
Yeah.
It was when he was running from the cops, and instead of engaging with the cops, he jumped out the window. It's like
Mm.
a second story window, but the way that the shot was done with the camera following,
Oh, I really liked that.
yeah, it didn't feel like it was falling, but it definitely felt like a perfect chase.
Mhm.
I almost think that the camera side of things is like, from a camera perspective, they did the original shot showing it from the second floor, and then they had another one constructed that was much lower,
Yeah.
so that that shot could actually happen, and the camera could easily follow out.
Yeah. Oh,
But
no, that was yeah, that was really beautifully done actually. Like that stood out to me.
it was kind of out of place, as far
Mhm.
as the shooting go, because they didn't do too many of those types of shots,
Yeah.
which is my preference. Like, don't over salt or over cinnamon something.
Yes.
The action scenes short and cool scenes like that, few and far between, kept it from like saturation.
Yeah.
The one thing that stood out to me, and I think this bugged me the first time I watched it, 'cause this is actually the second time. I didn't like the younger brother, Jung Suk. He was kind of
Like
more
the one who got
comedy.
nail gunned, right?
Yeah, the nail
Yeah.
gun brother. Some about the introduction of that kind of weird comedy in Korean films I hate. It's like why is this guy trying to be like the comedic relief? At
I
least that's what it felt like.
yeah, I was a bit thrown off with him. I don't know if comedic relief is what I saw it as.
Hmm.
I'm wondering if there's because were they the Chinese? No, they were against the Chinese, weren't they?
There was all sorts of different region callouts. Like they called the Thai actor like a member of the Viet Cong,
Yeah.
um, and like at some point, I think everybody was accused of being the Chinese. But I think
Mm.
it was more that the brothers Mensuk and Jongsuk both had ties with the Chinese, and they had like a direct drug running thing. So I don't think anyone
Okay.
was actually direct the like infamous Chinese in this
Okay.
circumstance.
There was one thing I didn't quite get, and that's that lost in translation aspect that happens sometimes. Because I was wondering if there was a cultural thing with that. Because he was so over the top, but didn't quite hit that comic relief to me.
Hmm.
I was wondering if there was a trope or a caricature or something that I was
Oh,
missing there.
like a Korean caricature about the like a Chinese stereotype.
Yeah, something like that. I just
Not
wasn't sure.
not that I'm aware.
Yeah.
I totally got that he was a bad dude, but there was a lot of things. I can appreciate the like this is Gucci, I got it yesterday,
Yeah.
but everything else was just like it's over the top. It bugged me a bit. I don't
Yeah.
I don't think it's the actor's fault.
No.
Just weird
Yeah.
decisions along the way.
Yeah.
One thing that I really, really liked about this film was Ramrowan.
Mm.
Um, it was clear that he was not a good guy.
Yes.
He was definitely a hired killer and he'd do anything. But, and he'll mess with people, but like he reached his limit.
Hmm.
And you could even just see it in like the quiet expressions in his eyes. His, his interactions with Jong So-mi, I don't think that warmed him up. But I think that like brought him to his brink. It's like, this is the level that I'm able to go at.
Yeah. That's actually an interesting character interaction with him and Somi. Because again, I was kind of getting that foil aspect. Um,
Hmm.
makes sense because like clearly he seems to have the stronger skills and such as well. Much like I'm going to be horrible at pronouncing names. Taisik. Yeah, that's what I'm going with. Um, and there's actually something that surprised me just a little bit in that climactic battle.
Hmm.
I honestly thought that Ramrowan hit a line,
Hmm.
and I actually almost thought there wasn't going to be a fight between them.
Hmm.
Right? Because it was just like there's almost again that look of like understanding where it was Tisik was coming from, and yeah, so it actually shocked me um, when he shot the container with the eyes again because there was such good character development overall.
It's
And
weird. I can only throw a hypothetical out there. I think Ramrowan knew that Adras's character was skilled fighter, skilled warrior. They didn't say anything, but in my like personal headcanon, Ramrowan needed that encounter to happen. He needed
Mm,
that fight to the death, whether to prove his skills or for it to be climactic. I don't see it as being like duty bound or anything.
I could buy that actually. Um,
I mean, they never
actually, that makes
expressed it.
sense. Yeah, they never expressed it, but I can see enough threads for that headcanon actually. Because
Mhm.
again, it's like he wasn't involved in that massive brawl at the end. until it was one-on-one.
And I really like that part.
Uh, yeah. So so I could see that, and I mean, clearly they had their scrap earlier and in the bathroom and such like that. I really expected that to turn almost John Wick and just have a fight in the middle of the club.
Yeah, I was kinda hoping because though I really like this movie, a lot of things that are unessential, I just put out of my mind,
Yeah.
and things that I think are important to me are, like, vaulted, perfect
Mhm.
memories almost. I think I actually mixed up the club scene in this with the one in John Wick because I was
Mhm.
watching this and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, this is where they have a knife fight in the club."
Yeah.
But they totally didn't. I liked that there was that little bit of subversion there,
Mhm.
and then, like
And they were both ready for it. Like, it was like, "Ooh, that would have been exciting to see." Again, one of those things, like, and it's interesting because I think in other movies, I would have been really disappointed to not have that. I'm like, "No, this actually works." Like, they just built it right.
mhm. Yeah, that's I really like that structure, I guess you could say. I found the addition of the police officers a bit odd, but I also can't see a way that excluding them would have made sense.
Yeah, there's an oddity to that. It's I can't really think of how they add it to the film, but you're right. It's like I can't exactly see them not being there either. Uh, I think I think what would have helped it fit a little bit more, and this could be just again that just more Hollywood style filmmaking that we're used to. It's the have them tied somewhere, have them be corrupt one way or the other, or something.
Hmm.
And like that's what was going through my mind. It's like that's got to be why they're there, right? Um,
I'm wondering if it's a story beat that, like, both you and I might have missed, where it was obviously the like your standard like crime drama thing where you have your police officers, like your law enforcement, and then the criminal organization.
mhm.
But I don't feel like the writing or the structure made it feel like, oh, Isaac was caught in the middle of it.
Yeah,
It didn't give me that feeling.
yeah. It didn't come across that way. I mean, they tried to again, they tried to use him as a fall guy.
Mm.
That was about it. Like that's I mean that's a place where I could have seen them having a bit more impact as well. It's like, okay, they did arrest him for this. He clearly showed how capable he was. They did really good at explaining his backstory, just with that, this is a civilian file that's completely redacted. I'm like, yep, that's what you need to show us what type of character he is. Really liked that. Unlike, nobody.
Yeah, I was about to mention that. Like we talked about this in Nobody, especially in the comparison of John Wick, and that is using other characters to inform the legend that
Mhm.
the viewer
Yeah,
is creating in their head about who this character is, and
yeah,
they did that so well
yeah.
in this movie. It was definitely a little bit more subdued, but I liked how they did that better in this film than John Wick.
Mm,
Because
yeah,
John Wick was more of like this is an this is both an this is the urban legend, this is the man, it's fact, this is John Wick, and
yeah,
everyone's talking about it like it's a fairy tale.
yeah,
This is closer to what Nobody almost did right, if they hadn't had all other explanations about it, was
yeah,
when the hacker girl comes in and throws the file and is like, "You can have it for free. I'm out of here."
yeah,
That structure, and
yeah.
I don't see a way that we could have included corruption.
Well, there's one other thing that they could have done instead, because you're right. Like the corruption, I don't think would have quite fit,
Mhm.
but it left me a little surprised because they clearly know who he is. They clearly know what he's capable of. They straight up realize that he's doing this only because the girl is missing,
Mm.
but they still take him away. That part surprised me. Like again, it was kind of like that. I'm almost surprised they didn't let him go to raise Sumi as
That's
as this
that's.
little baby girl.
I mean, that's pretty Hollywood, though.
Yeah.
They did structure the cops themselves in a way that it was clear that they were dedicated to their job and getting their man.
Hmm.
So even though this guy killed a bunch of criminals, it still makes him a killer. So I guess the morality structure in that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they did give him some concessions as well. Like
Mhm.
they did have Sumi with him. They did let him, you know, go to the old man and basically prepare her.
What I was surprised is the I was almost expecting a like the young boy from Squid Game,
Mm.
where it's like, yeah, this is your kid now. Have fun. I thought it was going to be like that with the old man at the end. Whereas
Yeah.
in this one, it was like, no, you're on your own now.
Yeah. Yeah. I almost expected that same thing. I mean, I definitely think the old man would have.
Yeah.
Like, it was very clear. It's interesting because I had a couple of notes down. It's like, oh, why are they doing this? This doesn't seem quite right. I'm like, oh, I get it. They're showing the tough love, and right, like he goes to pay. It's like, no, she'll have her consequences.
Yeah.
It'll happen. And like when she was being held, held by the police for like stealing the bag and just him walking away and not immediately helping, I actually really appreciated that after he went and talked to her, like after he went and talked to her.
Mhm.
I when it first happened, I'm like, but why aren't you helping her? Clearly, you have a bit of vested interest here. I appreciated that. Again, it worked and seems to fit with the character overall.
Well, seeing the structure of a disenfranchised, disconnected man finding some type of meaning,
Hmm.
because that's a little bit different as comparing this to Nobody and John Wick. Is it wasn't really anything about revenge.
Hmm.
It was this one character like finding some type of connection or piece of emotion and trying to hold on to that. And of course that means trying to rescue Somi.
Yeah.
And just like chef kiss to the acting because it was all in the eyes.
Mm.
And throughout the throughout the entire film, like you could see just a little bit more tinkles or twinkles of emotion every time it did like a close up of Juan Bin's face.
Mm.
The point where you're
Yeah.
just like at the end where he apologized for leaving before, where he's just like, "I'm
Mm.
sorry for leaving," before referencing when the police had Somi after the bag theft incident.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there and I'm like, "Oh, this is a tearjerker moment." Just him like finding that connection and like bookending that in such a way.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. 'Cause it wasn't traditional revenge in that regards, but it's interesting as I was watching this, just kind of with the plot line with the rescue plot line. That I'm kind of like originally like, okay, this is going to be a John Wick type thing, and like,
Mm.
okay, nope, maybe it's more of a Taken type thing, and neither of those quite fit. Um, I almost wonder, and I didn't actually go back and check release dates, which I meant to. It's like I almost wonder if there's some influence one way or the other.
I mean, it could be.
Um,
Korean cinema is has been on the rise.
yeah,
I mean, Taken was 2008. I think John Wick.
this was definitely so. This was after, okay,
Yeah.
I think.
Well, I guess John Wick was 2014. So Man from Nowhere came out 2010.
Okay, so there might have been a little bit of influence there.
But I
Yeah, it's
mean,
just one of those things that,
all these end up just coming from like Statham in some way.
yeah, that's fair. Oh, what was that? Uh, I'm thinking that one state the movie. I can't remember what it's called now.
Is it one of the transporters?
No, Crank.
Right? Oh no.
It's your fault that movie's in my mind. You introduced me to that.
Oh, I can't. I just remembered that Jason Statham was in Ghosts of Mars.
Oh, was he?
I mean, try.
Um,
Yeah, Jason Statham is kind of an institution in a
yeah.
lot of the stuff, like the various transporter movies or most of the action stuff.
Mm.
It's yeah, just like figuring out who in the beginning of the film, figuring out who your protagonist is going to be.
Mm.
It's kind of a fun little adventure because you
Yes.
think it's going to be related to the cops. That's kind of like not right, and then they show a bunch of criminals, and you're like, "Oh, is it gonna be one of these criminals?" It just ends up being like random pawn shop guy.
So I think if I didn't know the American title of the film,
Hmm.
I would have been questioning who the protagonist is going to be.
Hmm.
The title of the film, like the Korean title of the film, doesn't really give it away because it's just Mister.
Yeah.
The American version, or the American title rather, clearly gives it away because he's literally the only man from nowhere that we see.
True. True. I wish that there was a way that I could have spared you from that.
Yeah.
Given some of the tropes that we've talked about in our off time for like some of the Korean cinema stuff and from our pre, we have handsome cop.
Yep.
So you just know like when you see him, it's like, oh, this man is quite attractive. Protagonist.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely there.
Well, he starts off like kind of unkempt and like shaggy, and then when he gets serious business, he does the like the self haircut,
Yeah.
the razor blade and the clippers. That's actually a super famous scene in Korea.
Is it?
Yeah, it's been mimicked a bunch of times. Apparently, it's well, I mean, like he has super defined abs and pecs, so like one bin
Yeah.
is a very popular man. But
Speaking kind of that unkempt, it was one of the things that I actually liked right at the beginning of the film, and then kind of actually noticed it at the end, bookending it as well. Um, I like the shot of his hands at the beginning, just showing how rough they were,
mm,
and it's just like one way or another, you know that he's been through things, just with like the scarring on his hands and such. And then I think they kind of showed Sumi's hand at the end, and it had that bit of roughness to it too.
mm,
And I'm kind of like, I like those bookends. It's again just those subtle, like small things that build up the character. You don't need to know much, but you know he definitely knows how to use his hands. And knowing it's an action movie, you're going to go, yeah, probably because he's scrapped.
well, I mean,
uh,
they did a great job of that in this film. Like everything, there was no loose ends at all. It was
yeah.
all bookended well, even down to the MP3 player,
Hmm.
um, which I like. A lot of that foil back and forth I found very entertaining.
Hmm.
But coming from like, what was it? Was he renting the MP3 player from her or something to give her pocket change? I couldn't quite figure out what that interaction was, but
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I think she was technically pawning the MP3 player to him.
oh yeah, and that's why she owed money.
Yeah.
So she was pawning it and then just getting some cash, and I met. And
Yeah.
then at the end, like having that MP3 player and then like getting her.
Yeah.
And of course, it had to be this bright little pink thing, which was cute.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, I do disagree. I think there was one thing one loose end that I realized that I can't figure it out. How did she escape from the ambulance?
uh,
Like that part just is in my head. It's like we didn't have a character that was sympathetic to her there, but she got out unscathed.
well, it's the thing. Ramrowan killed the discredited doctor and took his eyes.
Oh, okay. I missed that. It didn't quite click. Okay, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. They
I'm good
even
now.
like showed him later with his eyes removed.
Right. Yeah. Okay. No, I'm good. I remember them showing with his eyes removed. I did not piece two and two together for some reason.
Uh
Um,
that's another big turning point for Ramrowan for me because like hitting that line he would not cross.
Right, and that actually makes more sense why he would destroy that canister and such like that. Okay. No, it's good. I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you for enlightening me, good sir.
No worries. I really like the interactions between Taesik and Somi.
Mm,
Like there were so many little things. Like that first scene. I didn't take your milk. I didn't take your milk. He reaches in the bag, takes out his milk,
yeah.
puts it in her, puts it in her hands, and then she wouldn't stop talking. He opens the door, takes the milk from her, and then goes back in his apartment. It's like if she had just been quiet and left, she would have had the milk.
Yeah. There was a lot of that. Like I wanted to see. We definitely didn't have a Sharon here.
No, no, her. I
I
mean, there. I mean, there could have been a language barrier there,
yeah.
but from the tones I was getting,
Yeah.
from her voice and the emotions that she was giving off, I did not feel like Sharon out.
Yeah. No, like she was like competent. I mean, even like fighting back when she was kidnapped. Some I'm like, no, she's got some bite to her. Um, like I that's another film that kind of caught my eye, clicked with me. It's like I almost thought there was some Leon the Professional type vibes as well. I almost thought it was going to go that way more, and he took her under his wing more
Mm.
directly. And I mean, you see that again with her bite. Like, there's definitely some synergy with their characters, and I just wanted to see more of it.
Well, in a way, that I mean, connecting over the fact that they're both loners.
Hmm.
He, of course, because of his tragic past, which I'm happy didn't inform the overall story because I made
Yeah.
him more interesting. But her also because her tragic present.
Hmm.
The fact
Would
that
like,
how heartbreaking was it when she was like crouched there, like listening to her mom like shoot up
oh man,
after coming in and having watched her like get abused. This is Somi's present and like that pan over, which is like such a beautiful. I'm gonna say beautiful, but like in a tragic beauty way.
hmm
Shot where it like pans over to Somi like crouched down in that kind of disheveled kitchen,
yeah,
and then of course the only person that she can rely on is the other person who is also alone,
yeah.
which is the weird pawn shop guy.
I would like to say I completely agree. Pawn Shop Guy and Garbage, great band name.
Yeah, I was sitting there and I'm like, you're sounding a little bit like me, Somi.
Again, surprising strength of character from Somi. Like you said, we can clearly see what her present is. I mean, her nickname is Garbage, and she's still doing what she can to get by, and
Mm.
like she's not letting it get to her, and she knows it should. Like, she's not outwardly showing it completely getting to her, and that's just was just amazing.
Well, it does. There's like this whole sadness to it because technically, I'm just coming to it now. There isn't a happy ending.
No,
The only people who have any form of happy ending are the police officers.
yeah,
And half of them are injured. Um, they they caught a murderer. This like organized crime ring has been busted and killed and so forth. Has been taken care of. Somi's still alone and has no support structure now.
so I mostly agree. She is still alone, but she knows for a fact that someone would come and save her.
That's true.
She has that person now. She didn't have that up until the end.
Unfortunately, she would not know that his capabilities.
Hmm.
They could easily come out with a second one. I'm not sure if there is a sequel. I don't think there is. They could come out with a sequel where she gets in trouble again and he just breaks out of prison.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Like that connection was there. She knows that connection is there, and I think that alone
Well, he's the only one that
will work for
cares.
him. Mhm.
So I mean, that's what also gives it a bit of that tragic feel,
Yeah.
because she gets that feeling, that emotion that like someone in her life actually cares about her and her well-being,
Mhm.
but he's about to be taken away.
Yeah.
And I doubt it's for a short period of time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the military might come out and or was he military? I've been watching Jack Reacher clips all day. Um,
Yeah. So I think
it was like a
technically he
intelligence
was,
agency.
yeah, special ops and worked with the American military
Hmm.
special ops.
But I mean, I could see a favor being rung in,
Yeah.
which is something that I always thought is a badass kind of scene, but I'm glad was not present in this. Was the them running his name and then like something coming down from on high? It's like, no, you need to step off.
No, they actually did the exact opposite. They
Yeah,
tried to reach out to the on high and got the information they were looking for.
I mean, with subversion of the process.
Yeah, but it was it was still interesting because yeah, any other film you'd see that and they'd go no.
Slam.
Yeah, yeah. 'Cause she never actually saw him what he did to get there. That was actually like one of the most amazing lines, and like she clearly didn't see this, but I liked it when he was talking to Mansok.
Hmm?
Mansok, that's the right one, right? Um, on the phone, and he's like, "See, your problem is you live for tomorrow. You're about to see someone who lives for today." And I'm like, "Okay, you clearly have nothing to lose, and you are going to do everything in your power to save this girl." And
It
just
was,
that line is just like, yeah, that's pretty badass.
oh, for sure. The I got the quote here, and I'm gonna say it with curse because it is a quote.
Yeah,
Uh, you live only for tomorrow. The ones that live for tomorrow get fucked by the ones living for today. I only live for today. I'll show you just how fucked up that can be.
yeah.
And I was like, whew.
Right, 'cause, I mean, you see, it's like it didn't matter what was happening to him. He had the goal. That's the only thing that mattered, right? Getting shot, surviving that fight, then getting into the other fight with Ramrowan. Like
Mhm.
it's just like, and then jumping on the car to take out to take out the um,
Like the leader.
Mansuk, and yeah, it's just like, yeah, you done messed up, and it was amazing. And again, like just again, I just think it's such a strong thing that Sumi knows at the very least that she had someone that would actually have her back. And I mean, I guess it was kind of there early in the film too, because like I'm just thinking about that interaction
It was,
between the two of them
well,
now,
at the
because like,
beginning, it was them both reaching.
yeah,
Um, so if you think about it like a hand holding
yeah,
analogy, they're both reaching out, but neither of them has grab hold. And at
yeah,
the end, they both at the same time grabbed a hold of each other's hand. One
yeah,
to give one person the ability or someone to care about, and the other one to be cared about.
yeah.
It's I think that's what kind of made that power.
Hmm. Yeah, and like especially because like that dip in the middle where he doesn't help her with the police,
Mm,
right? Because I mean, like I look at it, it's like okay, he, he shows that he's going to be there for her by just like knocking over the rice bowl,
hmm.
so her mom can't see her, and then turning away when she thought that he would be there, right? And I think again that's not recognizing the message necessarily of what he was trying to do there, to fully recognizing what that message was, and when it actually came to something that was tough, like completely there, and it was.
What's the thing when during the skull bag incident, like she was in trouble, but it wasn't that big of.
Yeah, exactly. It was a this is a place to be able to have that tough love lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
If only her mother was as good of a parent as weird pawn shop guy.
I know, right?
Granted, like she was doing what she could to get by.
Yeah.
It was clear that she had fallen in with the wrong people that were taking advantage of hers too.
Mm, who the mother? You
Yeah,
mean?
the mother was
Or
being taken advantage by like multiple people.
I don't quite know how much sympathy I have
Oh, I don't have much.
for
I'm
her
just
yet.
saying, like the origin story of
Hmm.
this character. There's definitely reasons why she is the way that she was, but that I mean, doesn't make her a good mother. It just
Yeah.
means that there's reasons why she's a bad.
Yeah, that's fair. Actually, I did half expect her to be like a protagonist at
The mother.
first. Yeah.
Well,
At
yeah,
like at the very beginning.
especially in a movie like this, young, attractive woman, um, has something that she should want to protect.
Yeah.
Like it had all the structures to set her up, if not as one of the primary protagonists, but at least a secondary.
Mhm. Yeah, I thought it was gonna be her. It wasn't. It's fine. Um, I can tell you that my heart sank a couple of times throughout the film. Uh, just like after they were kidnapped.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when I think of uh in the golf place where they get in the accident
Mm.
and just seeing his face at the back of the car, I'm like, oh no, which one? Who is it?
Oh yeah.
and and because at this point here, I don't really care about the mother, but I definitely cared about Sumi, and I'm like, no, 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 no.
Well, I mean, and they made you expect a dead body, either um the mother, the daughter, or both.
Yeah,
But they went a completely different direction. I'm kind of meh about the organ harvesting part, but I can see where it adds to the story.
yeah,
So when that reaction of the police officer, where it's like she's cut up and like all her sellable organs have been removed,
hmm,
you're just like, oh gee, because that makes you feel like Somi's in even more peril.
yeah. So I was expecting a body there. Like, clearly wasn't expecting the organ harvesting thing. I almost my actual thought to how that scene was going to go until they showed showed her body was just kind of that. Sorry, brain a bait and switch almost. It's like, oh yeah, don't worry, you'll get her back as soon as you have this delivery, and just have them be like unconscious in the car.
Oh yeah, I
Like
mean
that,
that's a Hollywood thing too.
that's what my thought was.
Like he had them the entire time, sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, and in a way, he did.
Mm.
Right? Like, I mean, he clearly had the mother the entire time.
I mean,
Um,
saying that's a pretty devious plan to make him the fall guy
yeah,
by putting the dead body of the mother, and it's like, okay, he's dealing with drugs and has a dead body. This guy's going.
yeah,
Yeah, what is he going to pretend like he didn't know what he was doing? He was in the car. He was the one driving, and
yeah.
he had
Good.
already thrown away the phone. Doesn't
Yep.
have that proof either.
Yeah, very true. And again, just like yeah, some of it's definitely the Hollywood aspects. It's just like there's so many times where that's the case, but now my expectations are so subverted everywhere, and I'm like, oh my god, I could actually see him finding Somi with no eyes or something. Like it entered my head, like, no, this could legitimately be where they're going with this.
Well, and
Like,
that's the thing. Like, especially knowing how Korean cinema is, especially like these days, Korean and Japanese horror is like
yeah,
top notch to
yeah,
the point where like Hollywood doesn't even make up new ideas anymore, steal ideas from Asian countries.
they just keep remaking
Yeah,
the
yeah, it's
Grudge.
yeah, pretty much the so like all the little twists and turns, unexpected but still like reasonable based in the world that it was.
Yeah,
Like having her turn up with no eyes could have been a completely uh understandable turn of event.
Yeah.
I mean, one of these days I'm going to get you to watch The Host, and you're going to be just as WTF as me. I really don't get that movie. This definitely has its a unique identity. I could
Mhm.
see Hollywood making a film like this, but the choices being completely different.
Yeah. Oh, and that's immediately why my why I meant to look before. Is like, what were the releases of these other films? Because this movie has that. I mean, I guess you said it does have it. Um, just I could see this being an influential piece. This is going to be something that cinema will be trying to emulate.
Mm.
Right? Again, much in the same way that John Wick, they try to emulate that, or yeah, just overall. Oh no, mind dying. Quick, say something.
Oh, it just coming to that point where I mean, Hollywood for the most part is out of ideas. It's
Yeah.
like, um, it's pretty much like superhero flick, sequel, prequel, or let's do a period piece, but we'll have an unexpected protagonist that is some demographic that's unexpected.
You know,
Uh,
it's interesting actually. Like that's a good way to put it. I don't think that Hollywood has run out of ideas. I think Hollywood has run out of heart.
maybe effort,
Uh,
run out of
yeah,
effort. Like they're just being there's kind of a laziness to it now.
yeah. The passion isn't there anymore,
Mm,
and I think that's why I mean, we've watched multiple. Like, I mean, we have an entire anime
mm.
section on that on Media Club, and we have yet to do an American Second Wall. Across the board, we're talking about being able to see that passion and that heart throughout these films that we're just not seeing in media over here. Right? I mean, again, Belle is another perfect example of just that passion that can be shown through characters, and even if you're retelling a story. And I guess that surprises me because I made the mistake of reading some media quote unquote critics' views of movies like Belle, and was like, you clearly didn't get the film because you're complaining about all of the wrong parts. Like, I read an article talking about how, oh, it's a shame they had the whole real world section, and it's like, you clearly aren't getting the heart in this. You're looking at the spectacle, and that's it.
Well, it's
And
that's
that's what Hollywood does.
these these critics. I mean, this might be. I mean, I rant a lot about these sort of things,
Yeah.
and I every four media clubs, I I go off about something. But in this case, they're all just trying to insert my own personal lens, and this is how this film is either letting me personally down based on my self-ascribed demographic
Yeah.
or identity. And it's like films are great because a single film can't um can't be identified to with everyone. I love The Sandlot, and that was influential for me as a kid, but I don't expect the dude down the road to have felt the same way or
Yeah.
how I feel about Hook. Um,
Rufio.
no, why do you have to die?
I know, right?
But it's finding those little parts of beauty and opening yourself up to something that's not directly pointed to you. What a lot of critics are not doing these days. It's more like I'm XYZ and I'm intentionally looking at it through this lens, and this is how it's letting me down specifically. They're not rating it as an individual piece based on its own merit.
Yeah, I think there's two things about it. I mean, in some ways it dumbs down our media, like Western media, to just be the lowest common denominator,
Mm,
and it feels boring, right?
agreed.
Like early MCU was amazing.
Eh,
It, for what it was, like Iron Man was groundbreaking for how superheroes movies were. It was the first one that generally overall actually was taken seriously. It's even including like the Spider-Man films and such. It could just put it up an extra level.
well, what's funny about that is
Uh,
Iron Man wasn't that. popular a character until it was
Yeah.
played by Downey.
Yeah. And Guardians of Galaxy is actually another fairly decent example of that. You're taking these characters that no one cares about and you've elevated it. I think it's easy to be the lowest common denominator and just jangle the keys
Mm.
and go, oh, but look at all this spectacle, and that's all people grab. And I think I don't know what it is. I don't know where these critics get this from. Like, you're right, they definitely put it on their own. They try to put their own spin on everything as opposed to looking at a work. And
It's just people
great
being
art,
self-absorbed.
yeah. But I think that self absorption is hurt the industry so bad because a great work transcends any of that.
Hmm.
None of
Well,
that should matter if the story is done well. And I I see it when you look at some literature review stuff as well. It's like, oh well, now we've got to put this lens on. It's like you're putting this stuff in there because you want to, and it's because the story was good that you can see these things in it, not because it was trying to reach out to be this thing.
exactly. Unfortunately, the Western film machine no longer seems to want to cater to the art side of things, and they're only going to end up handing things to experimental um, directors who will actually like try to push an envelope if they're already a big name. I mean,
And
I think Spielberg's phoning it in. I mean, Scorsese's still knocking it out of the park every time.
yeah.
But it's just like I almost wish Ashley was here from she would definitely inform us or have a few rants based on this. It's
Yes, very, very true.
what's the thing, like we are seeing the rise of Korean cinema, and I don't even think it's at the highest point yet, especially where things are um, becoming so. There's a wave going on right now in Korean cinema. So you have your Parasite and you have your Squid Game and now Silent Sea. These are, of course, getting popular in Western companies because they're like, there was one good one, and then Western people finally caught on. It's like, oh, the average Joe is just all of a sudden like, oh, wait, these are good stories that still have heart.
That's exactly it. And I think that because I mean we talked about this when we were doing Squid Game,
Mm.
where it's like, for the most part, fairly good. Definitely had its problems. Uh, but one of the things we kept circling back to is like people are latching on to this, thinking it's this nice, unique idea, and we're talking about all of these other pieces of media that had that very similar feel to it
Mm.
from Korea, Japan, because we recognized the value in that media before it was cool. It's a big reason why we're seeing this here is people are actually tired of the the schlock,
Oh, for sure.
the churn that's coming out. They just didn't know they were.
Well, the thing, I'm generally not a big fan of remakes.
Mm,
I I don't care what it is. If Netflix goes, "Oh, take this foreign piece of media, and we're gonna do like a Western remake or a live action remake of this," it's probably gonna
yeah.
lose the heart and what made it good. But I mean, we can kind of see the way that it gets turned out and shellacked. A good example is Old Boy.
Mm,
So the original Old Boy in like 2003 or something like that. So it's a Korean film. Without going into too much, man gets locked in like this basement thing, and he's subject to there for years and years, and he gets all buff and finds his daughter, kills a bunch of people, sort of thing. Originally, Spielberg had picked that up and wanted to do a remake, and then pulled out, and then it was done by Mike Jones. And it's really interesting the perspective. So, Old Boy, loosely based on a Japanese comic book. So you can feel like there's a heart to that kind of transfers over there. It had its own uniqueness. but then it gets pulled over to the American side of things and it gets shellacked with the devil's hand. So like I was complaining about industry manipulation of media. I did it in Squid Game and Carol and Tuesday second season, just like inserting production people that are not like the writer, director, etc., trying to push things in because it'd be popular or whatever. You lose that. Yeah, you lose that heart.
Yeah. Well, it's.
That's why it's
I agree.
so nice to see like the original Squid Game and Parasite and No Silence Sea like getting this direct attention.
One good thing with the streaming services makes it a lot easier to do that. It's so easy to just grab it and remake it. And don't get me wrong, there's definitely some remakes out there that are just classics. Like I cannot remember what the American version is. But there's been like several remakes of Seven Samurai as westerns
Mm-hmm.
that are generally considered like some of the best. And why I cannot remember the name of the films is boggling my mind because it's probably something very straightforward, like Seven Cowboys. But but like talking about the anime aspects and such like that, we've talked about this in the past too. It's very clear when it's actually someone who is passionate about it making a remake. Uh, because again, I will hands down say, Alita: Battle Angel
Mm.
is absolutely amazing, even as an American remake, and you can tell that because I think that was going to be Cameron originally,
Okay.
James Cameron, because it's going to be James Cameron, but he had scheduling conflicts, so Rodriguez took it over,
Okay.
right? And but that's why it feels like a Cameron film. Rodriguez is amazing at it. I wasn't ever really worried about Alita, knowing that little bit of backstory, knowing that Cameron created the technology that he worked on, some of the technology he worked on from Titanic for Avatar, because he was that passionate about the vision for Alita.
Mm.
But the key there is passion, right? Ghost in the Shell is the other example of that. While, I know it's controversial, I don't mind the American remake of Ghost in the Shell. Scarlett Johansson's amazing.
Well, yeah, I mean,
But
it was mostly just journos and white people who were mad about Scarlet ScarJo being.
yeah. But one thing that I can say about the American version of that is I can tell that again the people who wrote it was familiar with the
Mm.
material, very familiar with it, but they chose to, for lack of a better term, dumb down the original Ghost in the Shell.
Hmm.
So all of the pieces were there. It felt like Ghost in the Shell, but it was nowhere near as dense as Ghost in the Shell is.
I mean, my personal opinion is Ghost in the Shell needs to be a bit looser, but not that loose.
Yeah,
Definitely not that loose.
yeah. It's honestly why I like watching this series a bit more than the film, because the series actually gives it that time to breathe. But so to say, so you can make these American remakes if you have actual fans doing it, not the fans who are so in love with it that they have to change everything about it. um,
Oh my gosh, I love this piece of media, so we should change every little thing about it. Welcome to Hollywood.
but
My
to get
name's
back on
Kevin
top,
Smith.
oh, what happened to you? um,
It only
but I mean, to get
matters
back,
when people change the things he loves.
mm, that's true.
Anyways, to get back on topic.
um, it's nice to see that heart from these pieces of film. I'm really enjoying watching a lot of these foreign, like some of these a lot of these Asian films and series that we've been watching.
Mm.
Um, it's refreshing, and for the state of media overall, hope that I hope that Hollywood takes notice and decides to not necessarily change everything about it. Maybe let's get back to having some low budget films that are made with passion instead of having to have every film cost have half $1 billion. So if you don't make $1 billion, you broke. You're not getting anywhere. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you just need a good story.
Mhm.
Good story, strong characters. That's all you need. It's it shouldn't be hard.
Mm.
And I feel at least for Korea and Japanese cinema, they're still focusing on that. And you can feel it in the little things. Like when we talked about Haruko Izumi is missing.
Mhm.
It had such a different feel. I and though there was presentation of various like gender-based politics and feminism in that film, I feel like it was done right. Whereas, um, if that same thing was done in Western media, that would be like the byline, and they would immediately come out yelling at, calling them
Yeah.
toxic before even a trailer was dropped.
Yeah.
One of those
Just
things like we see it a lot in the anime that we've watched, but I'm liking that we do have some like we do have live action Asian media on um our list here because it's definitely making things. It's refreshing.
yeah.
It kind of cleanse the palate like a little piece of radish kimchi
Mm.
between bites on your meal. The anyways, The Man from Nowhere. It's a strong show. I'd probably give it 4 out of 5 ripe organs.
uh, I completely agree. It was just refreshing, as you said. The story was solid. There was never really anything that made me go. Nothing took me out. I was completely in the story, completely felt for everything that was happening. Uh, More like this. This is why I like media. This is why I considered myself a cinephile way back, and then kind of lost it because you know see the last half hour of discussion.
Well, and that's the thing.
um,
Like, it's it's films like this that I easily grow bored of the people in super suits.
yeah,
It's always the same thing over and over and over again. Either a super dumbed down redemption story or super dumbed down a hero's journey,
yeah,
something like that. Like just basic and surface level.
yeah,
Whereas finding a movie that actually has characters,
yeah,
finding a movie that actually knows what it is
yeah.
and doesn't pretend like it's something else.
And that's a good way to put it. It's just there's the idea of there's only like 10 stories in the world,
Mhm.
but how you characterize them, it's how you differentiate from that base story. Like you referenced the hero's journey. It's it's common across cultures. It's everywhere. But if you do it right, it doesn't matter that it's the hero's journey.
Yeah, it's
It's
just how the story is told.
yeah, exactly.
Like
Um,
I can tell a mundane story in such a way that you'll be gripping till the end where you realize, oh, this guy didn't actually say anything of importance.
yeah,
It's just all in the words you use, how you
yeah,
tell the story.
yeah, exactly. And it's I just want to see the passion come back.
Agreed.
Like I want that heart telling when most of the films we have on our list, like we don't have new films on our list.
Well, I mean, to be fair,
To be fair,
when you strain it all down, current cinema ends up being kid story, superhero story, romantic comedy, some type of drivel, and then sometimes an interesting story. The reason why most of our stuff is older, stuff that we either want to see or have seen, is simply it's a larger pool.
mm, that's fair.
Well, I guess I'll wrap it up. With that, this has been Beardy and the Beast Media Club. As always, if you like what we do, like and subscribe or join the conversation in the comments or at our Discord. Join us next time where we discuss the Studio Chizu film, Boy and the Beast. Later.